It's 7:25 on a Tuesday, and you know what that means. It means Tom Crawford from the Crawford Podcasting Network joining us now. And Tom, a pretty nice victory this week over Washington. The Wolverines now 5-0, tied at the top with Michigan State. And boy, the expectations are getting higher and higher for the Wolverines.
They are. You know, a sold-out Chrysler Arena, a vibrant Chrysler Arena for, you know, arguably the worst team in the Big Ten, the Washington Huskies. But and Washington, I thought, really brought it strong. I mean, they got totally embarrassed in East Lansing on Thursday night by Michigan State. So they brought it, and it was a good win for Michigan. Michigan wins basketball games in such a wide variety of ways. I mean, Trey Donaldson was absolutely terrific against UCLA, and here in this game, he was 0 for 4 from beyond the arc. He was 0 for 4 from the free throw line. Not the best game for him. He still had a decent game, but it's Vlad Golden who's Mr. Consistent. And then Namari Burnett, who was a McDonald's All-American coming out of Chicago. He actually played this last year out in California, but, you know, Texas Tech and Alabama. He's a wonderful kid, and he was 6 for 6 from the field. You know, including I think 4 for 4 from beyond the arc. He had 16 points. He is a consistent, solid player. I can just tell how much Dusty May enjoys working with Namari. And then having Roddy Gale back, who missed the UCLA game, he's the glue guy. This was a good win. A 16-point win, and onward they go. They play Minnesota on Thursday night.
Well, for the 5 starters in double figures, even Sam Walters getting into the act, he had 12 points. So scoring has not been a problem for the Wolverines.
No, you know, Sam Walters has had kind of an on-again, off-again. You know, sometimes he goes. I mean, he is a shooter. I mean, he's got one of the quickest releases I've ever seen. And when it's going in, it's going in. And he's had somewhat of a slump. And he can be a liability sometimes defensively, but he had 12 points, and I was impressed with Sam Walters. I'm telling you what, Pat, it's like, let's see, we're talking about a 10-man rotation that you don't, including Justin Pippen, who had almost 8 minutes. It's a pretty good rotation.
Well, they really have flipped their schedule in terms of they have 3 quality road wins already. I think it's pretty likely they go to Minnesota and win, and then return home with Northwestern. So I don't think this winning streak is going to stop anytime soon. But if you would have told me that those 3 road wins would all be, our 3 road trips to Wisconsin, USC, and UCLA are all wins, that's a pretty impressive start to the season. You already got 3 in your pocket, and they should go to Minnesota and get 4. Now you only got 6 left.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's you know, Tom Izzo always complains how tough his schedule is, and it has been in the past. But I mean, it's a cakewalk compared to everybody else's. You look at their schedule; they have an easier path when it comes to road games. I mean, Michigan has home and home with Purdue. I mean, they got to go to Mackey Arena. I mean, Michigan State does not. I mean, and I think that game's on the 24th of this month, coming up here pretty soon. That will be a tough. That might be their first Big Ten loss, and I mean they could play incredibly well down at Mackey and still lose that game. So yeah, I'm not trying to get over my skis here a little bit with automatic wins at Minnesota and then home in Northwestern, because you just never know. I mean, the Big Ten has no dominant team, but they got a heck of a lot of good teams. And when you have USC, which is, you know, a young team that's just coming to, you know, the Michigan handled fairly well. Go to State Farm Arena in Champaign and beat Illinois by double digits. I mean, that shows you how you got to keep your guard up, because if that can happen, anything can happen.
Well, yeah, the schedule of the Big Ten is you play 20 games, and the amount of travel that's involved. It's anytime you can get a road win, and if you can just hold for it at home, which, you know, Illinois, it looked like was off to a great start, and they get nicked at home. But boy, when you got some of those in your back pocket already, it helps because almost every team would take 6 or 7 road wins is just outstanding. So, but they're playing well. They seem to have cut down on the turnovers a little bit, and with maintaining that same fast pace of play.
Yeah, they have. I asked Dusty about those turnovers. I was trying to be candid, man. I was saying, listen, you got down to 11, and I wasn't being facetious. I mean, that's a breakthrough for this team.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Got down to 11, and I asked him, is it realistic to have a single-digit turnover output on a particular game because of his style of play? I mean, it's a very aggressive style of play. There's a lot of plays in that 5-4 ball screen. They do with the two bigs. That's like threading a needle. You're going into you have to have precision passing to have, and you're just an eyelash away from a turnover. So it's just going to happen. He mentioned the other day they want 80 possessions. That seems like a lot, but they want more rotations in possessions. They're an offensive team. He's an offensive coach, and that's just the way it is. And if they could shore their defense up a little bit better, especially in the mid-range area, box out a little bit better, improve their defensive rebounding better, and then obviously control the turnover number, this could be a really, really good team.
Well, you're exactly right. I'm sure they're playing, most of their games are close to 80 possession games, and I've coached basketball long enough that you'd like to be under 20% turnover rate, and so that would be 16. So anytime Michigan is anytime 15 to 10 in that range, that's not excessive. That's not excessive with an 80 possession game.
Yeah, and this is what we get caught up in, and the reason we got caught up in this stuff because of John Beilein.
But
John Beilein.
Yeah, they were playing 60 to 70 possession games.
60 to 70. So he would come in, Wyrod would hand him the stat sheet, and he'd look at the turnovers, 7 turnovers, and shaking his head. Like I'm serious when I say that. Like he didn't like it.
Yeah.
But it was a different style. Now we're using most of the shot clock. Perimeter shooting 3, and this is a decent 3-point shooting team as well. And the other thing, right now, I haven't seen the latest stat. They're number 1 in the nation in field goal percentage. So they're taking good shots, and they're making their shots. It's just some of the other variables they gotta corral.
Tom, what's your personal opinion of how good is this Wolverine team? Now, I know you mentioned on Press Pass this last week with Jack Ebling and Rico Beard that you thought Michigan State was better than Michigan, basically because of the guard play.
Well, yeah, and that's a smidgen I'm talking about, and we're sitting here, January 14th. They don't play until Friday night for the first time. Friday night, February 21st. Okay, so that's 5 weeks away, right? So much can happen between now and then. This stone could get polished pretty shiny for Michigan as they're playing better together and knock on wood here, they stay healthy. But I'm saying as it stands right now, I just think Michigan State, as I mentioned about the guard play, I think that's Michigan State has a 10-man rotation, and they only have Jaden Akins is the only guy who averages double digits. They're all like 7 points a game, 8 points a game, 9 points a game. They have such a balanced attack. I think that could be the difference. I'm not trying to get ahead of I'm glad that game is tucked away. I want Michigan because I think the longer that further is, Michigan has the higher ceiling. I will say that over Michigan State. Michigan State's more of a finished product. I think Michigan is an unfinished product, and I'm super excited how good they could be.
And who are maybe 1 or 2 of the other teams in the Big Ten that are going to be trouble for Michigan?
Well, because they got to go to Purdue, that's problematic. Now, Oregon comes to Ann Arbor. That'll be a huge game. Oregon's an interesting team. I think they went to Columbus and won at one point. I mean, they're good. I mean, they're 4-2 in Big Ten play, 15-2 overall. They got some wins. Indiana. I mean, you go, okay, Michigan State. You got Purdue, Oregon. You got Indiana. You got Illinois, who's really good. Illinois has some really impressive wins. And Wisconsin's kind of this feisty team that's going to wiggle its way back. And then you got Iowa. I mean, Franny's team is weird, but they can hang around the chicken coop and cause havoc. They're really good at home. They just don't win on the road. So there's that element. I mean, you got Ohio State. The only team I think that is, let's call it in a tailspin, and that's their coach's fault, is Mick Cronin's UCLA Bruins. When he threw them under the bus, and they got beat by Maryland. I mean, you can tell that was going to go one way or another, and that's going south. I see UCLA in an uncontrollable slide right now.
Well, yeah, they're finding out now what the Big Ten and the Big Ten travel for them is going to be like. They've already lost at Nebraska, at Maryland, and they're going to be taking 2 or 3 more trips across the country to play. So, he's got some problems. What about the Michigan women now? They're in action with Washington on what, Wednesday night? Is that right?
Yeah. They're good. I'm not as familiar, obviously, with them, but I mean that's you talk about a good. I mean the men's rivalry with Michigan and Michigan State. The women's those games are going to be titanic. I mean, they could be in packed gyms. This is so cool to have. I mean, Michigan's women's program had struggled for so long. I remember a time when Michigan, 20 years ago, Michigan's basketball team was one of the worst in men's, and the women's were one of the worst. It was like a cold winter in A Square, but they're pretty good, and we'll see how that goes. And the more they win, the more that place gets packed up, and you get that lower bowl filled up, and maybe it'll sprinkle up, and they'll eventually have a sellout if they keep winning.
I think this was, for the men, it was like the 6th sellout in the home games that they've had so far. So, folks are starting to come out now to watch the Wolverines.
Well, I mean, when you look moving forward, they got Northwestern. Maybe I'm not sure if that's going to be a sellout. I mean, the students are back now, obviously, and that was a vibrant crowd. Illinois game, which is in early March. I think it's March 1st. That will be a sellout. That's a Sunday afternoon game. You got, Purdue's going to be a sellout. Michigan State game will be off the charts in terms of people demanding tickets for that game. It's going to be vibrant. I will say this right now, though, and I remarked this about, because I've been in the Breslin Center, and I've seen other arenas. I mean, Michigan's crowd is good, but I'm telling you what, they need to ratchet it up, helping their defense. When Michigan will make a good bucket and the crowd kind of gets into it, but I've seen other places that go crazy cheering on their defense at certain times, and it only happened like 1 or 2 times where they went where the crowd really got into it, standing up, bringing the noise to help their defense, and they're going to need that in bigger games. And maybe the bigger opponent will bring that out in the crowd. But and the more they win, it's like anybody else. They'll come out and win it. It's still dicey. I'm looking at the schedule against Minnesota. It's undefeated in the Big Ten play. Michigan against winless Minnesota. That's kind of scary.
Realistically, Tom, from a prognostication standpoint, how many games do you think Michigan could win this year before the Big Ten tournament?
Well, they're 13-3 overall. They've got 5 already in the vault right now, and they got 15 to go. I think this team is. I think this is a 14-15. I think they could go 15-5, maybe even 16-4. I mean, they're going to get some. They're going to get some losses. I mean, I'm realistic about this because they're such a vulnerable team. We've seen this. They blow big leads, and their guard play doesn't take over I mean, Trey needs to be more consistent, I think, and then they're going to get. They need one of these cats, LJ Kaysen or Justin Perry. They're going to need backup help. They need like Derek Walton was a sophomore year, who can come all of a sudden emerge as a decent backup, and that's going to be a variable moving forward. If they can get that, then they could win 17 games in Big Ten play. I don't know, but I think the Michigan State thing is going to be a split.
All right, let's talk about Michigan football. Haven't heard an awful lot except transfer portal and NIL, and I know you don't really care about that. You want to see the guys on campus before you talk about them.
Well, they got this big cat from Ferris State, this big offensive lineman. I'm thinking, D2, D2, that's cool. I mean, but I'm hearing great things about him. I mean, they got to shore up that offensive line. You got another signing day coming up in February, so there's a lot of recruiting going on. I'm telling you what, when you come off a bowl win and you come off a win over Ohio State, I mean, Michigan is talked about. As long as Ohio State is in this tournament, winning for a national championship, Michigan is brought up a lot because it's a talk piece about Ohio State, right? Not since the Michigan game. You're hearing post-game interviews, everything like that. That's good branding for this program. If Ohio State wins the national championship, it's not. I mean, I hate both these teams, right? Ohio State and Notre Dame. It's not the worst thing in the world because it adds credibility to the Big Ten. The Big Ten has not won back-to-back national championships since 41, 42, 43. Minnesota won 41, 42, and Ohio State won 43. Has not happened, whereas in the SEC, they got a slew of back-to-backs between LSU and Alabama and Georgia.
So you think it's going to be Ohio State over Notre Dame then?
Notre Dame? Oh, God, yes. I got that in a 10 to 14 point range. What do you think? Don't you think or not?
Yeah, I really do. I think Ohio State is so superior to anybody else, and it's just just a matter of time before they unleash all of that power and score a lot of points.
Yeah, I'm going to watch that. I mean, I'm going to ask you this question before you let me go. I mean, who do you want to win? I'm asking both of you. Who do you want to win this game? Or do you not care?
Well, yeah, I care. I'm leaning toward Notre Dame.
Why is that?
Because I think they've got a great program down there, and the coach, he may not be there very much longer. He may go to the Bears, but anyway, I just like them, and I dislike Ohio State.
I think Ohio State's going to win. I think it'll be a really good game. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. I think it hurts that Notre Dame has lost a left tackle that's been a starter pretty much the whole year. I think that's a little bit of an issue. But I know one thing: they both have portal quarterbacks, and I think you better keep an eye on it going down the road. That if you don't have a trigger guy, it is awful tough to get to where these two teams have got. And
well, I mean, Jeremiah Smith's going to get 7 or 8 balls for probably $130, $140 with a couple touchdowns. That's happening.
If he does that, it will be a blowout.
Well, he will do that. He will do that. You heard it here first.
Well, he didn't do it last week. He got 1 catch for 3 yards.
He's going to do it. It ain't happening. He's not going to go sour like that 2 weeks in a row. Trust me.
All right, Tom, we're out of time here at Inside the Cave, but we want to let folks know where they can pick up your podcast. Where are you going to be this week in the greater Lansing area?
We got a couple. We're going to go to breakfast Saturday. We got a couple of venues. We like to do that breakfast thing, and I got some podcasts with my boys Chris Young and the other about Michigan basketball on Friday morning, and with Ralph next Monday. But go out to Tom's Take Community, all one word, no apostrophe. Tom's Take Community. Go on my YouTube page and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. It'll drive that content, a lot of Michigan stuff and Big Ten stuff and other, kind of lifestyle stuff around here in Greater Lansing and beyond. And would really appreciate that. And always appreciate you being on Inside the Cave every Tuesday morning. It's an honor, guys.
All right. You were with a bunch of guys there at the Michigan game the other day. I saw a picture of you, all these guys. Wait, what, do you have a suite up there?
Yeah, that's Dr. Byer, my fraternity brother, who is one of the top gastroenterologists in the Midwest. That's his suite. We do that for basketball, and these are frat brothers of mine at Michigan, and we just have a good time talking about the old times. And hey, Michigan athletics is a centerpiece. Michigan football, Michigan basketball in particular, that's a centerpiece, and it's a great thing, and it's awesome. I love it. It's my little retreat every whenever we got a home game.
You all had smiles on your faces, that's for sure.
We did because we're happy.
Yeah.
Michigan's winning.
All right, Tom. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right,
Thanks,
Tom
Tom
Crawford from the Crawford Podcasting Network.